Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Tracy Alexander, and coming up in today's newscast, a new phase. Israel tries a different approach in the fight against COVID-19 as powers are assigned to fresh forces. Saving lives, we speak with the doctor who helped in the miraculous recovery of a 12-year-old girl. And as an Israeli actress nominated for an Emmy, we hear the personal, unorthodox story of a former Haredi woman who shares what it's really like to split from the religious community. Israeli coronavirus infections still rising steadily, hospitals filling to capacity and beyond. But while seemingly losing the battle, Israeli authorities are set on winning the war, rolling out a new plan to deal with the virus and a new coronavirus czar to manage it. Aaron Porras reports.
Once a safe haven, Israel has now officially overtaken the United States in infections per capita, with 211 new cases per million people. This means that the Jewish state is now the fifth most infected country on Earth among countries with populations over 1 million, following Bahrain, Brazil, Panama, and Oman. This as another 2,200 new coronavirus infections are logged over the past 24 hours. The total cases in Israel now reaching nearly 67,000. More than 33,600 are actively sick, 322 are severely ill, and the death toll hitting 490. But fighting back against the spread, Jerusalem authorities are now unveiling a new coronavirus program and with new leadership to roll it out. Health Minister Yuli Edelstein announcing his new head of public health, Sharon Alroy-Press, taking over for Sigal Sadetsky, who resigned in early July over allegations that the government had no clear direction in tackling the virus. Meanwhile, Israel's new coronavirus czar, Professor Roni Gamzu, starting by trying to rebuild trust between the government and the public. Gamzu, who heads the Ichilov hospital in Tel Aviv, says it's the lack of trust that's to blame for the rise in the second wave, outlining a new social contract.
מה אנחנו צריכים לעשות? מצד הממשלה, החוזה החדש זה אומר שקיפות, באמת שקיפות, מקצועיות, ענייניות ושיתוף. אנחנו לא ניתן יותר להגבלות שאין בהן היגיון. אנחנו נקטין את ההגבלות כמה שניתן, וכל דבר בהמשך יהיה בו הרבה מאוד מקצועיות. אני נמצא. אני האחראי. אני לא אתן שיהיו כאן הגבלות שיפגעו בכלכלה שאין בהן היגיון. אני אחראי לזה, ומכאן ואילך זה החוזה החדש שאנחנו חותמים ביחד.
Not to put all the blame on authorities, though, Gamzu says the public has a ways to go, too.
מצד האזרחים אני צריך אמון, התלכדות, התגייסות להורדה של אותו R, של מקדם ההדבקה, ציות להנחיות.
On those guidelines, Gamzu says that more is needed to be done. Only 70% of Israelis reportedly wear the protective face coverings, less than 50% keep social distancing, and 65% are compliant with taking temperatures when entering businesses. As for following the chain of infections, Gamzu is taking pressure off of the health ministry and putting it on the IDF. He says the IDF has the capability to stem the spread, which is the heart of stopping the pandemic. He also hopes to expand testing to upwards of 100,000 per day by the winter. And finally, unveiling his new traffic light model, local authorities would have more autonomy in dealing with the pandemic. Under this model, green cities with low morbidity rates would be able to open or close businesses, schools, theaters, and other venues as they see fit. Yellow cities in danger of an outbreak would get increased assistance, and red cities with confirmed outbreaks would be managed at the national level.
אנחנו יכולים לנצח את זה, אנחנו יכולים לעשות את המאמץ, זה דורש באמת, כפי שראש הממשלה אמר, את כולנו במאמץ אחד, כל אזרחי מדינת ישראל.
Now, amidst the doom and gloom, there needs to be some heartwarming news about COVID-19, and this Israeli school is creating it. A young boy quarantined for a week because of the pandemic almost missed his yearly class photo, but thankfully his teacher decided that no child should be left behind and got creative, bringing the entire class to the boys' window so they could all be in the picture together. Now that's what we should be looking to create more of during this time, right? Right, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is calling for those behind a far-right attack on demonstrators to be brought to justice. Opposition head Yair Lapid, for his part, is blaming the Premier for the attacks, saying he's inciting the public against the protesters. The Premier, though, lamenting the fact that the media and political rivals are ignoring alleged threats against him as protests continue night after night on the streets of the Jewish state. Violent attacks on demonstrators rattling the Israeli public. These scenes outside the Tel Aviv home of Public Security Minister Amir Ohana. Suspected far-right members of the La Familia Beitar Jerusalem soccer club reportedly behind the incident, the second claim against them in a week. As night after night protesters take to the streets, anger is growing after a leaked recording of Ohana pressuring the police brass to step up enforcement against those rallying against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Hundreds of protesters moving from outside Ohana's home to the Ayalon highway, forcing police to redirect traffic as demonstrators blocked off the thoroughfare. Police say they arrested 4 people for disturbing the peace and assault at the rally. Meantime, in Jerusalem, another night, another protest outside the Prime Minister's official residence, calling on Netanyahu to stand down. The police use of water cannons against protesters discussed in a Knesset committee overnight after scenes like these, in which officers are being accused of indiscriminate use of them. The panel's chairwoman, MK Miki Haimovich, blasting police for not sending a representative involved in their use to the meeting, saying images like these are not easy to accept and injustices done in protests must be corrected. Meantime, Tel Aviv residents waking to a jarring scene today, a pop-up exhibit in Rabin Square showing the Prime Minister enjoying a lavish meal for one in a mock reenactment of the Last Supper. The artist saying the imagery is set to show a contrast as unemployment skyrockets and tens of thousands of families struggle over the government's handling of COVID-19. Well, Israel's security forces upping the ante on all fronts. On the northern border, a boost in military troops. It comes as a number of suspects were spotted by the military near the security fence along its border with Lebanon overnight. But after a brief search of the area, it was determined that no infiltration had occurred. Tensions are high after Israeli forces thwarted an attempt by Hezbollah to infiltrate across the Lebanese frontier. The Iranian-backed terror group has denied the infiltration attempt. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has been threatening to respond after the killing of a top fighter in Syria last Monday, being blamed on Israel. Now, visiting Israel's northern military headquarters on Tuesday, Netanyahu saying this.
אני מתרשם שצה"ל ערוך היטב לקראת כל תרחיש אפשרי. אנחנו ממשיכים לפעול כדי לסכל את ההתבססות הצבאית האיראנית באזורנו. אנחנו נעשה כל מה שצריך כדי להגן על עצמנו, ואני מציע לחיזבאללה לקחת בחשבון את העובדה הפשוטה הזאת. ישראל ערוכה לכל תרחיש.
Well, we move now to an incredible story of survival and the incredible team of Israeli doctors that saved a young girl's life. A 12-year-old girl was one day complaining of a pain in her hand, and the next she collapsed and was rushed to Shaarei Zedek Hospital, where she was diagnosed with a rare infection that had rapidly taken over her entire body. It was spreading so quickly that doctors thought she could die, or at best, lose limbs. Miraculously, though, she is not only alive but thriving after the intervention of a team of doctors at Shaarei Zedek in Jerusalem. And Dr. Ehud Lebel, director of the orthopaedic department there, joins us now with more. Doctor, a pleasure to have you with us. An unbelievable job that you and your team have done. So congratulations and thank you to you. Tell us, one day she seems perfectly healthy, the next she's fighting for life. What happened?
This teenager came to us with a severe infection of a specific type of bacteria that might damage the muscles and muscle envelopes severely. she was actually on a vacation abroad and then came to the hospital with severe limb pains and gradually collapsed into shock. She was taken into the intensive care unit, and of course the amazing team in the intensive care unit was the ones saving her. When she was stabilized, we've been taking her to the operating theater and had to drain a lot of pus from her upper limbs and one lower limb. And this is probably what saved her life, because we could be able to drain the infective bacteria from the muscles.
Right, and of course we know that she was told that she might die or even lose limbs. Neither of those things happened. So how significant is such a recovery under the circumstances that she presented with?
Well, this is probably because of the amazing stabilization she had before by the intensive care unit physicians and nurses, and we've been able to drain the pus while she's not in such a severe shock as she might have been. You know, it's always a teamwork. The plastic surgeons, we, the pediatric orthopedic surgeons, and of course the physicians and nurses from all disciplines that allow us to perform very extensive operations in a severely infected situation.
Right, and you know, the word has been used, miraculous, but of course it does come down to the work that you and your team put into saving her life. Tell us what she's up to now, how she's really living a full life after this recovery.
Well, above all, I think that she's an amazing teenager, and her family is magnificent. And she took everything so bravely. And she had the rehabilitation process so nicely that she is back to playing her violin, and she's functioning well, and we're very happy for her.
Fantastic. Well, we can't be more thankful for the work that you're doing, not only saving her life, but the lives of many others. Doctor, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, things are only getting better and better for Israeli actress Shira Haas, the star of Unorthodox, receiving a nomination for Outstanding Lead Actress in a limited series or movie for her performance in the Netflix series. In it, she portrays a young Haredi woman called Esti from Brooklyn who flees to Berlin and embraces a secular lifestyle. Have a look.
I had to get as far as possible for my community. So you help me.
Your ticket? Passport? Good luck in Berlin.
Where are you from, Esti? Never been anywhere else.
Dann lass sie doch mal was Schönes zeigen.
If not now, then when?
Now, the story of Esti is not uncommon. In fact, Hani Taub grew up in a Hasidic family in Zurich where everyone dresses the same, thinks the same, and wants the same things. At least that's how she describes it. And when it came to getting married, she was 18 when she met the guy who would become her husband. They met on a Sunday, and by Wednesday of that same week, their engagement had already been announced. 1 year later, she had her first child, and after her second, she eventually left everything for another life. Now, if this sounds similar to the plot of Unorthodox, you are not wrong. And Hani is joining us in the studio to tell us about her journey to independence. Hani, a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
Now, these words, independence, are of course yours. Tell us when you decided to make a change and leave the life as you'd always known it.
I decided it officially, it was after my divorce, when I suddenly was alone with myself. I was independent, becoming more and more independent. I didn't have my parents, I didn't have my husband, so I could finally embrace that I don't believe in those things and I don't feel that I have to do them. I don't feel it's right.
Weren't you afraid, I suppose, to leave? I mean, you'd only known that for, upwards of 20 years. Were you afraid to leave your family, your community, the beliefs that you'd held on to all those years?
I wasn't so afraid to leave because I never felt very connected, because I was always an outsider. I never really understood the point of it. So I wasn't really afraid to leave.
So what was it like then, living inside a community where you say everyone thinks the same, dresses the same, wants the same things, when you really didn't?
It was frustrating because when you grow up religious, they don't teach you how to think. So I knew something wasn't right with me. I wasn't feeling right towards those things, but I didn't really know what I feel, why I feel it. I didn't really know how to express it.
So what was the turning point for you? How did you identify, no, I feel that something's not right and I'm going to make a change and I know that this isn't the right place for me?
When I became more independent and I realized I don't owe anybody anything, I can do whatever I feel is right for me. So then I decided I'm going to live how I feel is right.
And how did your family come to terms with that decision?
My parents didn't accept me as modern Orthodox, so I'm not really in touch with them. I haven't come out to them officially, but I assume they know because, people talk.
Sure. How does that make you feel, the fact that if you make a different life decision, then it seems that you ultimately lose contact with your family?
It's actually very sad because they accept you only if you're the same, if you're with Naim.
Okay, explain to us what the thinking is behind that if you're not following the same rules, then it's unacceptable and then they won't speak to their own daughter.
I forgot the word in English. I think it's shlita. It's the need to control everything.
To control.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you watch a series like Unorthodox, do you relate to Essie's experience? Do you feel like it's true to life?
Yes, I actually thought it was very authentic, yeah.
What were the parts that you felt that you could relate to her experience?
The clothes were very real, the language and the scenes, especially the mitzvah scenes in the wedding, wedding scene. It was very, very authentic.
Okay, and so when you watch that, is it triggering for you? What kind of emotions come up for you when you watch an experience like that? Also knowing many people have shared your experience.
Yes, it's frustrating to see how many people live their life or get married just because they have to and they don't even want to. It's very sad.
Do you acknowledge, though, that there are some people that really are living a very happy life that way and it isn't, for them, they might not share your view, that they're not taught how to think?
I know some personally that are quite happy with how their life is.
And how are you feeling now?
Very independent, very good.
Okay, well, it's good to see that you're happy. And of course, everyone's journey is an individual one. And I'm glad that you've made the right choice for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the Jewish world is today marking Tisha B'Av, the saddest day on the Jewish calendar. And to tell us more about what took place on this special date and the reasons why Jews mark it by fasting for 24 hours, I'm joined by Rabbi Ariel Constantine, the founding rabbi at the Tel Aviv International Synagogue. Rabbi, a pleasure to have you with us. Talk us through what is being remembered on this day that makes it such a somber one.
Well, Tisha B'Av remembers the loss of the first and second temples. The destruction of the first took place in 586 BCE by the Babylonians. The second temple on the same day on 70 CE, after the Common Era, by the Romans. But it's not just that. As the ensuing exile of 2,000 years until our return to Israel, many other tragedies also happened on Tisha B'Av. Coincidental or not, the expulsion of the Jews from England in 1290, the expulsion of Jews from France in 1306, the expulsion of Jews from Spain in 1492, the mass deportation began from the Warsaw Ghetto in 1942. So time and time again, we've seen tragedy after tragedy, calamity after calamity taking place, and the Jewish people suffering on this Tisha B'Av, on this 9th of Av. And therefore, we remember this day, we mark it with a fast, and mourn the tragedies that befell our people.
And what is the main message of this day? What lesson should we learn from it?
There are, I think, two major lessons. One of them is the reason why we went into exile. They say the first temple was destroyed because of idolatry, but we were only in exile for 70 years. But the second temple was destroyed by what's called sinat chinam, baseless hatred. And we're still in exile from that 2,000 years later. We still haven't rebuilt the third temple because that sin is still existing. We've repaired the sin of idolatry. That's not something that tests us as a people, but hatred unfortunately still exists, and strife and fighting and wars still abound, internal and external. And that's something, once we can repair that and we can bring ourselves together with a sense of unity and love, then we can really see a change and perhaps look forward to a new era of peace.
Right. So then just looking at the fact that we're seeing images of the Kotel, of the Western Wall, people praying there every day. What is the role of the temple in Judaism?
The temple was a number of things. It was a galvanizing force. It was a place of centralized worship, a place that we could all come together and to be one united people. It was a place where God's presence would rest, and therefore there's a place that we can really connect to on a deeper level as feeling God's presence in a more acute way, which connects us to Him and Him to us. And that's really missing without that temple. We have what's called a synagogue, which is Migdash Ma'at. It's a mini temple, but it's not the same thing. Without God's full presence, we're lacking in this world. And we want to, the Kotel is the closest place we can get to towards the temple, to wall of the Temple Mount, the retaining wall of the Temple Mount. But we pray to be closer to God and bring God's presence more into this world. Right. And that we hope to have a third temple one day.
Right. And you talk about fostering unity and love and bringing more of that into the world. What kind of behaviours should we be then integrating into our life to ensure that we are upholding those values?
Well, we see all around the world that there's riots and there's fighting and there's terrible, people being ripped apart, families being ripped apart by their political beliefs, left and right. This is something that we're seeing so acutely right now in our time. And this is exactly what we need to reverse. We need to respect each other for different views. We need to say that unity is not identicality. Like in the previous subject, you don't have to be the same in order to be accepted and to be loved for who people are. We always speak about Ezu Chacham, Olamed Mikol Adam, which is from ethics of our fathers, who is wise, who learns from everyone and respects everyone. And we can achieve so much unity through respecting our differences. And I think the world is desperate for this message right now. And I hope that the message will resonate on this Tisha B'Av.
I could not agree more. Well said, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Easy fast.
Well, now, as we heard on Tisha B'Av, we remember the destruction of the ancient Jewish temples in Jerusalem. But just ahead of the holy day, Israeli antiquities authorities remind us of a different shrine, roughly 1,300 years old. Here's more.
Nestled by the side of the road in the hills of Kfar Kama, halfway between the Sea of Galilee and Nazareth, an amazing new discovery has been revealed. A 1,300-year-old church, complete with a gorgeous mosaic tile floor. The church also includes a large courtyard, a foyer, a small central hall, and a small reliquary or stone box used to hold sacred relics. Additional rooms yet to be excavated have also been discovered with radar, suggesting that the structure is actually part of a larger monastery complex. But most important is what the new discovery shows us about early Christianity in Israel during the Byzantine period. This site sitting near Mount Tabor identified as the alleged site of Jesus Christ's transfiguration, with the Circassian tribe using the stones of the ancient village to build their houses.
Unbelievable. All right, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Weather tonight should be partly cloudy and warm, with lows around 76 degrees Fahrenheit or 24 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow, as the heat wave continues, you can expect sunny skies and an average of 97 degrees Fahrenheit or 36 degrees Celsius. And now, before we go, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel.
Hit it, Fergie.
I think I'm more interested to know what's really going on down the bottom with the footwork of the dog. It's very talented. All right, well, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.41 shekels to the American dollar, For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. And remember, let's use our power to be kinder to one another. I'm Tracy Alexander and thank you so much for watching.